Hello, this is 26.2 at 50, and wow, we are here at the end. Today is October 11th, Saturday, and last weekend was my marathon, last Sunday. So I am here to tell you how everything went. So, yeah, I guess I'll just tell the story from the beginning. So I woke up at about 4:45 that morning, of course, super dark, and ate some breakfast, kind of got myself ready. I'd sort of laid out everything as much as I could the night before to like have as few things to take care of that morning. And I got up, I taped my toes to kind of prevent the blisters, and yeah, I had an Uber reservation to pick me up at a little bit before 6. I was hoping to get down to the starting line like a little bit after 6. My Uber was late, so it was more like 6:15 when I got down there, and the crowd was unbelievable. There were so many people at this race. Yeah, in the past, like the Portland Marathon, like when they tell you when to show up, like the emails in 2022 were like really like trying to scare you a little bit. So I remember in 2022, I was like, okay, I guess I really need to get there early, and I got there at like a little bit after 5, and there was like no one there at all. So I was like, okay, I'm not doing that again. So I got there, yeah, like 6:15, and it was just huge crowds. Like you're struggling your way through just dense packed crowds of other runners. Got over to the bag check and dropped off my bag. Had just enough time to like use the porta john, like waiting in a big long line. And pretty much I went from the porta john just right into the start area, and a couple minutes later we were off and running. So as I've said in other videos, my goal for this race was to finish in 4 hours. So I went in there with a plan. Like I lined up in the starting area with like the other, like the 4-hour pace group basically. And there were pace runners throughout the race, but like I kind of lined up with that group to start. And when we started, the first mile or so was actually a little bit slower than I wanted. So I went in with this whole plan for my 4-hour race where like I was like, okay, 4-hour pace is 9 minutes and 9 seconds per mile. So what I was thinking was like, I want to run each mile like a little bit faster than that. Not crazy faster than that, but a little bit faster than that. And like, I was thinking in terms of like sort of building up a buffer of time against 4 hours. So like, if you run 1 mile like 8 minutes 49 seconds, right, that's 20 seconds faster than the goal pace. So you've got a 20-second buffer, right? So then if you run the next mile at 8:49, now you have a 40-second buffer, right? So that was kind of my plan, was like, okay, I'll build a buffer, and later in the race I'm getting tired, like I kind of start to slow down, maybe I give some of the buffer back, but like I've still got the buffer. So the first mile was actually one of my slowest, and it was just because of the crowd. So like the race begins in downtown Portland, and you've got like crowds of people on the sidewalks like cheering you, and you're packed into this very dense group of runners. Like I said, there were huge numbers of people there. So I had a hard time kind of getting up to my race pace in the first mile just because I was kind of boxed in, right? You're kind of trying to get past people as best you can. But it really took into the second mile before the crowd was like a little bit lighter, and I could really get going. And after that, I kind of really got into my plan. So it was like each mile, like I was in like the 8:30 somethings, 8:40 somethings, and I'm building a buffer. It's like mile after mile like that. So like I was ahead of 9:09 for every mile, I think through 19. So I was definitely starting to slow down in like 18 and 19, but I was still like, 9 minutes per mile, 9:02, 9:05, that kind of pace. And I had like about a 5 minute buffer like built up. So the other thing that started happening during the race was I started feeling pain in my right calf, like a muscle strain. Now, I've talked in other videos about like you can often sort of self-talk your way through that. Like sometimes like pain you feel in a distance race isn't entirely real. It's kind of like your mind playing tricks on you. So I just kind of self-talked my way through it for like mile and mile after mile after mile after mile. But like by like 2021, it was like, okay, this is not fake pain. And it really started to slow me down. So around mile 21, I was getting really slow, and around there I had to like stop running and just kind of like stretch my calf like by the sidewalk a little bit. And I started running again like with like kind of short strides, just because that felt a little bit better, and I thought like maybe the muscle will kind of loosen up a little bit. I kind of like started like more gels to just like get more calories into my body. But I was running kind of like 10 minutes plus pace at that point. So like the last several miles I kind of gave all the buffer back. Like I built up a buffer. Like I looked at my splits like after the race, and I built up like 5 minutes or so against like my goal time, and like last few miles I kind of gave it all back. So I did finish the race. Yeah, here is my medal. I did finish. My official time was 4 hours and 1 minute, 4:01 a minute and 7 seconds actually, but 4 hours and a minute. So my plan kind of worked. For something that's a personal goal, I'm kind of willing to say like 4:01 it's a 4-hour marathon. Interestingly, on that. So while I was running, I had a GPS watch. I had a Garmin watch that I was using to kind of track my distance and also to track my pace. And maybe a lot of people running a marathon say this, but it felt like some of those miles were like a little bit long. So there's this part of the race towards the beginning when you're still running like in and near downtown Portland where so there's like at Portland, there are a lot of like light rail lines, like public transit lines, and they're above ground. They're like trains above ground, and like they don't like stop them for the marathon. So there are these sections of the race where like to accommodate the trains, they'll actually reroute the runners. So this felt like in Harry Potter, like the moving staircases. That's what this felt like. So you're like running down a street and you see everyone is supposed to turn one way, and then like all of a sudden the race staff are yelling at you, go straight, go straight, go straight, go straight. So this happened to me a couple of times where it's like, okay, I have to like do this alternate course to kind of route away from the train. And I kind of wonder if I picked up an extra few tenths of a mile doing that. Because like basically as I'm out there running, like I had my watch, like I said, and it's Garmin, it's a pretty reliable GPS, and the watch said I had run 26.2 miles at about 3:56. So I am definitely considering that I met my goal, because I got the proof there that I ran 3:56, 26.2 miles. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying is like I've actually crossed the finish line like 5 minutes after that. So I kind of wonder if I ran more like 26.5 miles that day. But either way I finished. There was definitely some celebrating that afternoon. It was nice to just kind of soak in the accomplishment. I took a couple days off of work. Like on Sunday afternoon I was kind of like, I don't really want to like lay down or like go to bed because like I could feel how stiff my legs were getting. So I kind of wanted to like move around a little bit, but like by Monday I was just exhausted. Like I'm really glad I took the day off from work because like all throughout that day I was like I need a nap, so I was just like going and lying down whenever I needed to. Yeah, my leg is getting better each day. It was pretty bad on Monday. Like I was like walking with a strong limp, and like yeah, like went outside and did like a little walk around the block, and I was just yeah feeling it all through both legs. So yeah, I have not been for a run this week. I've just been taking it easy and just yeah waiting for that calf to kind of feel back to normal again. Um, but overall, I mean, gosh, way better experience than 2022. When I had a lot worse injuries, and it took me like a lot longer to finish. Um, and yeah, like we were, when we kind of met my wife at the finish line, and then we like grabbed another Uber to take us back home, and it was probably it was a bit after noon at that point, so the race had been going for 5 hours, and like taking the car over the bridge to get back to the freeway, just seeing runners still going across that bridge, it like made me think of 2022, because it's like yeah, I was right there with you. I finished in 5:25 back in 2022, so it's like I feel you guys. So yeah, kind of reflecting on the experience, I think like my main reflection is like how much better I sort of dealt with the adversity of like being in pain that slowed me to a walk like late in the race, like because it was quite an experience out there. It was definitely like weather wise, we got like it was like absolutely ideal weather. Like it was cool. I think it was about 60 degrees that day, but perfectly sunny. Like it was perfect weather. So the weather didn't take it out of me the way it did in 2022 when it was hotter. But I still saw like I had kind of my struggles with my calf, but I saw a lot of people out there like a lot of carnage on the race course, and people struggling way worse than I was. Like, I mean, I saw people like just doubled over, like they were about to vomit. I saw people who were like having, pretty clearly having serious leg injury troubles, and like it was kind of all over those last few miles. And, that's reflecting on the experience. I think that's for me the main thing that was different was like I was a little better prepared for like some adversity late in the race, and I think mentally I just dealt with it a lot better. Like like I knew I was getting slower, and I knew it was like okay, it's going to be kind of a race against the clock to like meet my 4 hour goal. And I was kind of, I mean, it's tough to like do all the math in your head when you're tired and all of that, but I was like, I hope I have enough of a buffer. And around just before the 25-mile marker, the 4 hour pace runners passed me. So that was like the kind of the hardest potentially moment I had out there. Was like I have this goal, I've been working towards it for 4 months, and I'm like, you're like literally seeing your goal like running away from you. So but at the time I was able to just like keep the wheels from coming off, and like I told myself like I'm gonna give this the best finish I have, like whatever I've got in me, like that's gonna be the finish I have. And that's a real lesson learned, because it's, I mean, 26.2 miles, I mean, this kind of thing doesn't happen to me in half marathons, but like in a full marathon, it's like those last 5 or 6 miles, like things might happen to your body that you're not prepared for. It's kind of like that saying, it's like attributed to Mike Tyson, like everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? It's kind of like that. Like you go in there with your plan and all your preparation, and you have an idea of how this thing is going to play out, like I did with my buffer, but unexpected adversity that you haven't planned for can happen, and like how you respond to that is like how you're going to finish your race. So that was kind of my main takeaway, was just being able to draw on that experience from 3 years ago and kind of find the mental toughness I needed to like not stop running, basically. So yeah, as far as what happens from here, it was weird this week not having a whole bunch of runs. Like I didn't know what to do with myself this week. So I'm sure I will be back out there running as soon as I can. And as far as, the future, I definitely see myself being more likely to try another marathon after this one than a few years ago. I think if I do that, I'm gonna have to do a bit more sort of research and give it more thought to like, basically like, can I run the same time without anything painful happening to me? Whether that's like being more it's a hard thing to think through because I feel like with my preparation was so much more on point and my diet was more on point. Like, it's really like fine tuning what I was already doing. There aren't as many easy fixes this time around. So I think, one thing I can definitely do more of and I could have done more of is more leg focused strength training, just to minimize the injury risk, like just being more like I did leg days and strength training all throughout my training, but I guess like being a bit more focused on the leg stuff, just to prevent the muscle injuries, And I think the other thing was kind of I think a concern I had that I know I talked about in some of these videos was that like the training plan I was following, like it's like any training plan, like you have like, a bunch of shorter runs and some of those are at your race pace. And then you have longer runs, which are at a more leisurely pace, where you just kind of build up to the distance. And, a concern that I had during my training was that I wasn't doing enough pace running and not enough long pace running. So like in the plan I was following, the longest pace runs were mostly like 8 miles and there was a half marathon in there. Like I ran a half marathon about a month ago at my race pace, but that was kind of it. So I think I need to sort of do some research and give it some thought of like ways to build more long pace runs into my long runs to, because it's like running the pace isn't my problem and running the distance isn't my problem. It's doing the two of them at the same time. So I think next time around, I just need my body to be a bit more used to running long distances at that pace. So that's kind of the plan. But, for right now, I'm going to kind of turn my attention away from like race planning and race training towards, the rest of my life. Like, something else I've reflected on during the training process is like, in life, you can definitely achieve a lot of amazing things if you're willing to pay the price to achieve amazing things. And like, running a marathon in 4 hours, like cutting an hour and a half off of your best time in one race, like, I'm proud of that accomplishment, but like, you do have to kind of be a bit obsessive to make things like that happen. And, obsessiveness can have impacts on other parts of your life. It can be a stress on your personal relationships. So, I'm really thinking now that like it's kind of the time to give a bit more attention to parts of my life other than my running. So, so for the time being, I'm going to sign off. I'm not sure what the future of this channel is going to be. I don't know if I'll, do 26.2 at 51 next year or something, but, I really appreciate everyone who's watched these, who's, engaged with it. I really hope you got a lot out of it. It was definitely fun for me to, to do all these videos. And otherwise, I wish you all the best. Again, thank you. And I will probably check in sometime later. Otherwise, have a great one, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.